I wish that would have been. I wish that would have been on the stream. Hey, everybody!
Hey!
It's Q&A time. It's Friday. We're here in real life. It's not a green screen.
Woo!
In person again on the Q&A. We're in a slightly different set because on August 26th we have Secure the Dib, our free half-day event we do every summer. It's been a thing we've done for years.
We have.
Because the summertime is usually when, unlike this year, summertime is usually when stuff isn't happening. We just did a whole podcast on this about all the stuff that's
many
been happening.
things happening.
But we always do an event in the summer because typically that's when DOD is not doing stuff. Things slow down in DC. And so it's easy for people to kind of forget what's going on. And now we've got the lab set up with all this. We know what all this equipment does. It's all very carefully calibrated. Please no touching. And so you can check that out on August 26th to register. It's free. We've been posting about it. Come check it out. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
But yeah, a little preview of the vibes around the lab, or the mad scientists around the lab. Anyways, I am back. I'm in Huntsville. You had the Q&A last week.
I did with Matt.
A-Line.
Went incredible.
Which was awesome.
Big fan.
And yeah, so let's get into the weekend review here. So NIH and CMMC. That's not something we've heard too often before.
It's not. So it's interesting. I was talking to a university this week that does a lot of medical research. I've actually spoken to a few of them. And they came to me, kind of knocking on the door saying, hey, we need a gap assessment. I was like, okay, great. Like, I'm assuming you're dealing with defense-related data or a defense contract that has CUI on it with like PHI or PII or something like that. And they're like, no, we just have this NIH requirement, National Institute of Health. I was like, okay, cool. Like, great. They're like, it just requires NIST 171, but we have to attest every year to being compliant with it. And what's interesting is that 4 or 5 months ago, I heard this from a different university that I guess NIH is rolling out NIST 171 requirements and some sort of attestation confirming, yes, you're actually doing it. So we go through the whole process because at the end of the call, I'm like, you don't actually need what you think you need from us, right? You don't need a CMMC gap assessment. I was like, it's actually going to be more troublesome for you because you have shared IT services, because FedRAMP clouds are involved when we look at the actual CMMC requirements in DFARS 7012. And anyways, it's really interesting to see another, sub-agency working on at least the NIST 171 framework, not fully tipped into CMMC world yet. But given the pending potentially FAR CUI clause, it could easily fall into that some same subset of requirements here in the future. So
yeah, I wonder too. I wonder what scoping conversations will be like for NIH-based data and contracts, because you would think that in the defense research space at universities, it's a little more constrained. That's being very generous. But I'm thinking like someplace like UC Irvine. Yep. Go Anteaters, by the way. Zot. The entire university is based around healthcare, the business of healthcare. That whole place is like a massive health infrastructure, the hospital system, all the research. As you're talking about this, I'm just imagining, I'm like, it's got to be the whole school.
Oh, we were looking at, I think it was Epic, right? Oh, very, very popular.
My mom actually got out of nursing because of the Epic transformation. She was like, I can't deal with this.
Well, I don't think there's many platforms that are FedRAMPed in electronic medical record space. So, even if that requirement drifts in with FAR CUI or because of defense contracts with CMMC, the healthcare industry is going to be really shaken up yet again, because a lot of them will have to move to compliant platforms, and just moving to one medical records platform versus having to migrate to another one. That impact is going to be insane. Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting to see that happening. And then federal aid, we're going to see this with FAR CUI, federal student aid, also considered CUI in a lot of aspects because of what it's collecting for PII.
Shout out to Ryan Bonner from DefCert and CS2 Denver back in the day, because I remember we had a whole panel of people. I
did the panel with all the higher ed.
Yeah, we had all these people from higher ed up on stage, and they were talking about isolating 171 to defense research and defense contracts and just that type of work. And Ryan got up and he said, well, federal student aid applications and student health information and all this other information is CUI, and it requires 171. So what about all the rest of the stuff? And
Yep.
nobody had a good answer. So if that FAR CUI rule, I mean, that's a whole other story. You guys know, if you've been watching the videos and the podcast for a while, if you think the CMMC saga is a long-term thing that's taken a while, the FAR CUI rule is, what was the other Tolkien book about everything that happened before Lord of the Rings? Let us know in chat. Was it I can't remember. Help me out, chat. What's the Tolkien book about everything that happens before the Lord of the Rings saga? It's with Morgotha.
I'm far out of my depth.
I can't remember.
Here.
We'll look it up later. Anyways, it's like Similarian.
Yeah,
Similarian.
Daniel's dropped it in chat.
Similarian.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, Daniel.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, there we go. All right. Sweet.
Andy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Daniel
Justin,
got it.
We got a lot.
Okay, they came through. I knew what it was. I would have gotten. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so this is something that has been coming up because the number of certifications in the ecosystem is growing precipitously. It's growing a lot, and we haven't started the phased rollout yet. As a friendly reminder, it's not required that anyone get a level 2 certification in any defense contract at all.
No.
It's not a thing. So everyone that has a level 2 certification has done so preemptively.
Yep.
And when it was like a dozen, when it was 2 dozen, you're like, yeah, sure. But we're coming up on 300 certified companies. And at the current pace of the rate of level 2 assessments, if they add even just a few more per month and we get to December, we could end up with like 500, 600, 650 level 2 certified companies before the first day of the phased rollout, depending on when it happens. And that's a lot of companies. And what I've noticed is that people in my interactions on LinkedIn, which is a very particular type of interaction sometimes, but what people are saying on LinkedIn is they go, 80,000 companies at a minimum, based on a DoD estimate, need to get a certification. And that's really far away. And that's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. And so we're not that worried about it. And based on my interactions with former contracting officers, 80,000 certified companies is not the thing you need to worry about. 8 certified companies competing for the thing you want is the number that you need to worry about. Because in the words of these folks that I talked to, they were like, whatever the number of bids is that they need to read, that they're required to read, they don't want to read even one more than that if they don't have to. So they're looking for a reason to disqualify the extra paperwork. And so if you don't have the CMMC cert and it's a requirement, they have to make an exception and they have to put in energy and they have to go stick their neck out and they have to do all these things for you. And most people don't have that kind of relationship with their contracting officer. And the problem is when you get to 500, 600, 1,500, 6,000 companies, is there going to be 7 companies going for the work that you want to go for that have their cert? It doesn't matter if it's 80,000. Obviously, the odds go up that there will be that many, but there only have to be enough companies for the contracting officer to be able to look through the bids for you to not win the award. And that isn't the 80,000th company. That could be the 8th company, or the 800th company is the one that is just enough for you to not be winning the work. And so you're not going to lose your contracts. You're not going to have somebody like throw a brick through your window and say this or that. I mean, Lockheed might throw a brick through your window, but yeah, people seem so focused on the totality of the number that they're sort of losing track of the fact that you can't tell when the critical mass of your competitors will be certified, and that's leaving you in the dust. But you won't know, right?
That's a really good point. I mean, I wish we could break that 80,000 number down by industry just to see kind of where that's all sitting. I'm assuming a lot of it's manufacturing. It's got to probably be a fair amount manufacturing. But to your point, you don't compete against 80,000 companies. You compete against a couple dozen tops, right? Typically.
Now, the DoD definitely wants to have 80,000, 90,000. They want to have everybody certified. That's their problem. Your problem is you have to be ahead of this group of people and you don't know where they are in the line.
And to Jack's point, but are you speaking from the DoD to the prime relationship, right? Yeah, exactly. So the business going after the prime award, then obviously downstream, and you say this, which I love, CMMC follows contracts, not companies.
Yes.
So like you can't get a company level exemption, it would have to be a contract level exemption. So if the prime is certified due to the requirements of the contract, the flow down, if you're passing CUI downstream, will also have to be certified if they're handling that data.
Yeah.
So you are right, Jack. It's one of those things where we're talking about how many people are going after prime relationships, right? If there's typically 10 people, 10 companies going through, and one got their CMMC cert, and it's a requirement of the contract, guess which one they're going to have to end up sole sourcing?
Yeah.
The one with the requirements, right? So it's interesting. I've never thought about it like that, but when you look at it like that, it's actually probably, let's say 800 companies by end of year are certified. Maybe there's 10 already in your industry that have a certification going after work.
I just remember, and this was Gold Coast is coming up next week. If you guys are going to be in San Diego, hit us up. Go Padres. Yep. Beat the Dodgers this weekend. We're in first place of the NL West for the first time since 2010. Red alert, everybody. The bandwagon is open. We're taking new fans. But we'll be in San Diego. And I was at Gold Coast talking to somebody on the vendor floor. They were a former contracting officer. And she's like, listen, man, we're people.
Yeah.
We're people. We're busy. We don't have enough resources. There's not enough people. Lauren Ayers has told us the same thing. We just don't have enough people for the type of work they have to do. And they are looking for a reason to disqualify a bid.
Yep.
And if you just give them the softball of we don't have a level 2 cert and it's a condition for award, you're going to get thrown in the bin unless there's a reason for them to do otherwise. And so that's just a big gamble. And if you're a small business, right, to Jack's point, if you're on the other side of a mega prime, you have a different set of problems. But if you're a small business prime and you're dependent on winning this contract or the option year or whatever, it's like, this is not something to gamble with.
Well, and here's the thing. People think, and I've had this conversation, they think that set-asides will trump the CMMC requirement. Oh, they have to have veteran-owned, disabled. They have to have minority-owned, women-owned. It's like, no, DFARS 7021 will sit above the set-aside requirements. So it's like, you think you're protected because you have a small business set aside and they have a quota to fill. The more important quota to fill is, are we putting all the DFARS clauses in and being accepted appropriately?
And I mean, this isn't a political show by any means, but if you sort of look at which way are the winds blowing for small business, which way are the winds blowing for cybersecurity regulation, they're not blowing in the same direction.
They are
so
not.
If you're going to flip a coin to see who wins, heads or tails, like I just be careful of the gamble that you're taking is what
absolutely.
I would advise people. Business is about taking risk. People are successful in business because they took a risk and it paid off. Just know the type of risk you're taking.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see here. We have finally correctly spelled I don't even know how to pronounce it. Somebody give me the phonetic spelling and then we'll move on from there.
I think it was SIL, capital SIL, looks like.
There we go.
How do you...
There we go. Well, we'll go from something really hard to something to just a very easy question.
Oh, I like that.
Does Microsoft GCC and GCC High make me compliant when I buy licensing? We hear this all the time.
We hear this all the time. And if you're watching the stream, you've probably heard me talk about this a lot. If you're new to the stream and actually don't know the answer, welcome. We welcome any and all questions of any and all types. We do not discriminate. A lot of people think when they buy Microsoft Gov licensing that Microsoft delivers a fully CMMC compliant environment for them. So I just want to take a moment in time here and just specifically say it does not work that way. Microsoft's not building a CMMC compliant tenant for you. They're meeting the FedRAMP requirement, and if you have export control, they're meeting the U.S. persons requirement, at least on the GCC High side. So just be aware of that. Don't think you can buy some licenses and just be done, right? Microsoft has a CMMC Level 2 architectural diagram. It's a large PDF if you're looking at the types of things that need to be configured. It's a good reference. And also the CMMC placemat is another thing they have, just so you get an idea of what will have to be configured, which workloads have to be implemented in order to meet CMMC.
Well, here's a question for you, and we've had this one before. If I'm in commercial and I need to migrate, I just have to push a button and then I'm good, right? Yeah. Like we just flip the GCC High switch and then the color changes and we're good? You
would wish that would be the case. Sadly, it does not work like that. You have to do a full, what they call tenant-to-tenant migration. So re-implement all your controls, migrate the data, do a cutover, bring your domain over, because you likely don't want to have to use a new domain. You want to carry it over. I mean, you're looking at a significant impact.
Yeah, it would be pretty sweet if.
It'd be great.
We'd be pushing buttons all the time.
It'd be fantastic.
It'd be wonderful.
Yeah, we would love if that was the case. It'd make things so much easier on everybody. But yeah, I can tell you right now, not that you can necessarily trust the Microsoft roadmap all the time, but that's not something that will ever even make the roadmap because it is a completely separate set of data centers.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the export control, where you're talking about, hey, they'll take care of export control. We have other stuff to do. We just did the podcast this week. Check it out. It came out on Thursday about the recent false claims settlement with a small manufacturer, less than 100
70 people.
employees. Yeah, 70 employees. They made the mistake, which is understandable but expensive, that their export controls made them good for their cybersecurity controls. That is not true. They self-reported. They still had to pay out $1.75 million. There were some other violations. Check out the episode. But yeah, just so you know, export controls, cybersecurity controls, cousins.
Yep.
Not the same thing. Not the same thing.
Cousins. Roll Tide.
All right, let's see here. We got some good ones in chat. Let's catch up. Let's see. Brian says, what are the chances that a large prime starts offering CMMC as a service, MSP-like services to their subs at cost to build a competitive team to build DoD CUI or to pursue DoD CUI contracts?
Brian, I love this question because I've been talking supply chain for like a few months now, really specifically, because primes are now certified in process of certification. They've spent the money, they've built their own enclaves, right? And now they come back to us and they're like, Daniel, I've got like I interviewed Brett from Boeing, they probably have thousands of suppliers, but even a regular prime, they probably have a few hundred, maybe 100, maybe 50, and they don't know what to do with these people.
Yep.
They're like, we have to send the data downstream. So the two options that we've seen is, number one, learning to decontrol the actual data, or at least redact the CUI elements of it, if you will, before you send something downstream. Ryan Bonner and his team do a fantastic job of that at DefCert. But the other one, to your point, Brian, is the actual enclave as a service. So I've worked with several enterprises who have come to me and said, Daniel, we would love to do this. I said, you know what? I would love to sell you an enclave that you can have all of your subcontractors in. However, this is the gotcha. If somebody is going to host an enclave, so let's say Lockheed Martin, they're going to build an enclave for all their subcontractors, right? Those subcontractors, because they'd be using this shared enclave as a service, right? Let's say it inherits 80% of the controls of CMMC, that would still require the sub to get certified. Now, here's the fun gotcha. The sub would be using the Lockheed enclave environment as part of their certification boundary, meaning all CUI related and flowed down to them would need to be inside of that boundary. Mm-hmm. If Lockheed wants to go work with Boeing, do you think Lockheed will allow Boeing contractor data in their system as part of their CMMC certified boundary?
Yep.
It immediately falls apart.
Crabs in a bucket.
So primes hosting an enclave as a service is one of those things where it's a nicety in concept. It's a great idea, but because you would basically sole source your supply chain to only being able to work with you, I don't know a ton of companies downstream that are willing to do that unless a significant portion of their revenue is tied to a specific prime. But that's kind of the problem that we're facing is like this enclave idea where, hey, we'll host an enclave for all of our subcontractors. Everybody will be happy. It's like, not exactly, because if that enclave's tied to the Lockheed in this example, boundary or service, then CUI from any defense work they do would have to fit in there, or they have to get multiple CMMC certifications with multiple different DoD UIDs. So
yeah, and we don't see DoD pursuing any type of large scale project like that either. I mean, there's the ENCODE.
There's the ENCODE with the Army, but that's going to start with 10 seats, right? It's going to start on the micro scale of things. And even to that point, right, it's going to have to be a FedRAMP solution. Same thing to Daniel's point, right? Like they'd be considered a cloud service provider if they're hosting this. So a FedRAMP moderate or moderate equivalence requirement would be layered on top. And so it would be better for a Lockheed-esque to spin up a separate subsidiary to build an enclave that would be agnostic of their specific defense contracts, right? Really just like an enclave as a service. But again, we see people that are buying subscriptions to hosted enclave solutions that they don't own the subscriptions to, right? They're like leasing a seat, if you will. And when they outgrow that, they have to migrate out. They have to go get certified again, right? So we're seeing these types of behavior all the time, but it is most definitely problematic because I don't know how the supply chain is going to become compliant at a tier 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way downstream.
Well, and this is the thing. And so this is one of my favorite books is called The Gray Rhino. So it's this book, so people know what a black swan event is, where you're like, it's a statistical anomaly that couldn't have been predicted. Like the indicators were too weak. And the author of The Gray Rhino said, most things are not black swans. Most things were giant gray rhinos standing right over there, getting ready to charge at you, and you ignored it. Like everyone could see it. And it's like, everyone knows that this is a problem. The primes know it's a problem. The smalls know it's a problem. The DoD knows it's a problem. Congress knows it's a problem. They all know that it's a problem, and no one's doing anything about it, which means it's good. They're going to let the problem occur before they mop up the fix, which seems to just kind of be human nature at this point. We do this with everything, it seems like. And so no one is going to preemptively come fix this problem for you. And so your bet is, are you going to be in the fallout before they come around to have the enclaves or the money or the tax breaks or the whatever? And if you're wrong, then you get stuck in the fallout. And if you're right, I mean, you would win, but that's a very big gamble, right? And they're just not going to do it preemptively.
Do you know who's very excited about this whole endeavor?
Private equity.
Private equity.
Yep.
PE is waiting for the shoe to drop so they can acquire hundreds of thousands of businesses at pennies on the dollar because their revenue is dried up from the Department of Defense. Going back to the tax credit thing, I forgot to actually mention this. I got so excited earlier this week because I ran across an article where the state of Oklahoma had legislation to offer a CMMC tax credit of $50,000, which sounds great. However, I didn't read the full length of the article, and it got shot down.
Did it?
It got shot down. It's not happening.
Well, I guess it ain't that much of a problem.
Oklahoma was really close to being a state that would allow a $50,000, I think it was over a 5-year period, $50,000 credit, but it did not make it through. So write your congressman, try and see if your state will hopefully pick up where Oklahoma fell off. And guess what you'll probably do? Bring a lot of defense business to your state.
Yeah. Because at this point, there's no help anywhere. So
there's no help.
Any amount. Well, Maryland does a little bit, but
they do.
Yeah.
Well, and you have the MEPS, the NIST MEP, Manufacturing Extension through the Department of Commerce, but I think that got defunded because of Doge and other things. So yeah.
All righty, let's see here. Nicholas says, can an organization encrypt with FIPS validated encryption? Can an organization encrypt its data on premise and have it backed up at a non-FedRAMP certified or equivalent location? James Galuli of DoD's ears are burning right now.
It is burning so hot.
I know this was discussed somewhat at CS2 Reston and want to clarify if this is okay. We have not seen the white paper, the infamous white paper that DoD talked about at CS2 Reston about this situation. So I think the standard knowledge, standard practice accepted in the community was you encrypt it with validated cryptography and it can kind of go wherever you want. DoD rained on the parade at CS2 and said, ooh, we think differently and we're about to issue some clarifying guidance. That was a couple months ago and we haven't heard any update. So
I know the logic behind it. The logic behind the DoD's, pending stance is, let's say you have a bank vault, right? That would be the encrypted FIPS validated CUI. Well, the bank still locks the front door. So the logic train behind it, whether I agree or disagree with it, that was kind of the logic behind it. But to your point, all the assessors that we've talked to and continue to talk to have all stated, very similar to the export control requirement, if CUI is not readable, so if the cloud provider does not possess the encryption keys to be able to decrypt the data, then it's going to be okay, right? The requirement doesn't apply there. That is, again, what assessors have historically looked at. So what's interesting is I'd have to look back at DFARS 7012 around the FedRAMP requirement, because it doesn't say encrypted or unencrypted specifically, but again, if it's obfuscated enough and you hold the encryption keys, I don't see a world where that's a problem.
This is one of those things where it's like, I can see the case that they want to make, whether you agree or disagree. The point is it policy or not? Like, do you guys want that to be the policy? Do you not want it to be the policy? Because the current accepted practice is the opposite of what they say they want the policy to be. So are we getting white papers? Are we getting memos? Are we changing guidance? Or are we just vibing here about what we think?
We're vibe coding. We're
vibe fed ramping here. Like, what does the answer need to be? So we don't have the specific answer from DoD. So we're sort of in the same boat that you are.
I would just kind of continue going down that path. One thing that I would ask everyone to do, these types of questions, just validate the perspective of your C3PO that you're interviewing, just to triple check your math, right? It's not consulting advice. It's just, where do you stand on this kind of nuanced thing? We had this come up with a client that just passed an assessment with us about collaborative computing devices and where the stance was. It had to actually get escalated all the way up to the Cyber AB and the C3PO Council. They're going to actually have a discussion around what constitute that. You're right, because this standard 171 Rev 3, which you cannot assess against, clarifies it really nicely, including software. Rev 2 is looking more at hardware devices. So when you're looking at teams and redirection of teams in a VDI session, does your workstation become a collaborative computing device?
This is why we got to use the 53 text from 853.
We got to use the gospel, right?
This is why you got to go back. So yeah, that's very interesting. We don't have a good answer for you, though.
We don't.
But if you
keep on keeping on would be my recommendation.
Tag James Gillooly in a post about it on LinkedIn, and he might be able to tell you some more information. So
also, we have a LinkedIn user. What's missed MEPS? What's
where are we here?
MEPS is the Manufacturing Extension Program run by NIST, which is Department of Commerce has oversight over that. It was a funding program, a consulting, a kind of advisory for NIST 171. A lot of people obviously were leveraging it for CMMC as well. In Virginia, Gen Edge, I think, was the MEPS in Virginia. I mean, they were able to issue grants, I think $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 back in the day. So if you every state has a MEP, by the way, so every state out there, reach out to them.
At least one. Some have
at least one. So reach out into your little district or state, see if they have any funding available, because you might be able to offset some of your CMMC burden with a grant that's available out there from the federal government, funny enough.
Yeah, so I worked at the California MEP Center after I left Northrop Grumman for a while. So yeah, that's the crazy part. There's a whole story behind the NIST MEP, and they were affiliated with NIST. There was, gather around everybody, quick story time. There was bad blood when CMMC first came out because DoD was running with a NIST standard and NIST wasn't really involved. And so early on, the NIST MEP centers were super, super, super early on helping with DFARS 7012 and 800-171. And there was, as happens when you involve people, a big rivalry between the NIST side and the DoD CMMC side, and they didn't work well together. And so I remember I had left the NIST MEP. The NIST MEP had kind of started to take their foot off the gas with helping people with CMMC directly. Yeah. They would help with DFARS 7012 and 171, but that wasn't the thing that had everybody's attention. When Victoria Piliteri went on stage at the Cyber AB Summit, I think it was the second one. At the
Ritz-Carlton.
At the Ritz-Carlton.
I remember that.
It was the first time that NIST and CMMC people had been on stage together in the history of the program. It was like a monumental moment that only like two people ever like noticed, but it was a big deal because early on that there were some rivalries, and I think it definitely hindered the program, because when Katie was first in charge of CMMC circa 2019, 2020, she would say NIST MEP, MEP all the time. They had the funding, they had the network, they had the knowledge. We had like 6 full-time people at the California MEP just working that program. Wow. And they kind of backed off of it after a while. It's a missed opportunity in the history of CMMC for sure. All right, let's see here. Scott says, In your opinion, why is CMMC promoted and discussed as a DIY solution? In every webinar, panel, and almost every C3PAO interview, nobody suggests hiring a CCP or experienced professional to help make it smooth. There's always confusion. People don't change their own oil. Why are they trying to address something so complex?
I think I know the answer to this. So we do a ton of webinars, right? Industry does a ton of webinars. I think that they don't call out hiring a CCP internally or recommending a CCP or CCP services because they don't want to come off as a sales webinar.
Yeah.
I think in backdoors, I can tell you this all day long. Hire a CCP, hire a CCA. We know some people even watching this live stream that are lead CCAs that work internally at OSAs or OSCs. Like, highly, highly recommend. I think most of the webinar and content put out there by organizations that offer CMMC services like ours don't want to come off as overly selly, right? When it comes to, hey, you should buy, CCP as a service through Summit 7 or whoever the vendor is, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the main reason, but I highly recommend CCP or CCA, but most importantly, past performance. I know some people that are not CCPs or CCAs, some of the most brilliant minds out there about CMMC. So I would take past performance, and if they happen to have a certification with CCP or CCA, fantastic. Maybe even offer to pay for them to get through it if you're hiring them internally. But yeah, past performance plus a cert, you're in for a good recipe, and I highly recommend it. I don't change my own oil. I stopped doing that with my dad when I was 15 years old, whatever it was. But yeah, highly recommend that for an organization. If you can find one, because we're hiring them all the time, and if you can afford one. I mean, that's going to be a 6-figure purchase probably if you're looking to hire.
On the oil change metaphor, right? Like, okay, you don't change your own oil, but you do get your oil changed.
I do.
And if you didn't get your oil changed because you either didn't do it or you didn't pay somebody to do it, and then your car stops working, you can't get mad at the person who sold you the car.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes, depending on which perspective you're taking, from the DoD's perspective, from the government's perspective, they're putting out a contract that requires the protection of controlled data.
Yeah.
And so are they expecting that everyone inside of your company knows how to do it? Maybe. They're expecting that you're able to meet the requirement, right? Do you know how to change the oil in this 1976 Peterbilt semi-truck? Probably not. I'm not a diesel mechanic, right? I have no idea. But if the contract involves me operating, maintaining, building this thing, I'm going to have to find somebody who knows how to do that. And if I don't, and I say that I did, and it blows up, that's my fault. That it's 100% my fault. And so you're in this weird philosophical kind of trade-off here where it's like the government is not being unreasonable by expecting that when you see these requirements that you're going to meet them somehow. Yeah. And so they aren't going to come out and say, you got to hire, for instance, when you have cost accounting standards, they don't come out and say, you got to go hire an accountant. Right. The assumption is you're going to have somebody do your accounting. Yep. When they say you got cybersecurity requirements, they don't come out and say you got to hire people or you got to go through a bunch of training. The assumption is you're just going to meet the requirements, right? Yep. So why is it considered a DIY thing? Like probably to avoid the sales thing, probably because of the assumption of how they're written. It's an interesting question, but yeah, I think it depends on where you're coming from. Would somebody put something in chat here?
It was sarcasm.
Oh. Okay.
Scott, you know how to get us. You turned up, my friend.
I was trying to thread the needle on like different perspectives. You got me.
Man,
you got me.
You got us. Well done, Scott.
All righty.
It doesn't take much to push us in the direction of just talking.
We always try to caveat everything. Talk about not selling anything. We never pitch anything on this show. I don't have a sales quota. I don't work in sales. Never have. That's part of the reason why we put the information out for free. Like we put the information out, people will sell themselves on the fact that there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done. Yeah. But yeah. Well, speaking of interesting questions that we get, this is why I love the Q&A. I love sitting in on as many calls as I do because people ask questions that after you've been in the ecosystem for a while, you forget to ask.
People didn't know that the DoD could come and audit them.
Right. Yeah, we hear this
That
all
was
the
a
time.
call this week that they were like, "What's DIBCAC?"
Yeah.
And I was like,
DIBCAC?
"Whoa, that is wild to think about."
Yep. And so, just as a quick refresher, the DoD under the Defense Contract Management Agency has a team called DIBCAC, which, $5 quiz question. The Defense Industrial Based Cybersecurity Assessment Center, I believe, is the
That sounds about
I think
right.
that's right.
I'll do a quick little Google
Check
here.
my math, chat. Let me know if that's the right breakout of that acronym. So DIBCAC is a team of DoD employees.
That was it.
Yes,
You nailed it. You nailed
got
it.
Still
Through
got
DCMA.
it. Still got it. So they are a team of DoD employees who are the cybersecurity auditors for the Defense Contract Management Agency. So they can show up and run a DIBCAC audit of your compliance with your DFARS cybersecurity clauses, not just 800-171, all the paragraphs of all of the clauses, 7008, 7012, 7019, 7020, FedRAMP moderate equivalency, your flow down paragraph, which is not something that is evaluated in a standard CMMC assessment. Really, a CMMC assessment, for the most part, is evaluating paragraph B of DFARS clause 7012. DIBCAC can look at whatever they want to. And per your current clauses and provisions, as we talked about on the DFARS Cyber 101 series with me and Jason on the podcast, 7019 and 7020 says that they reserve the right to show up at any time and
medium
run a
or high
DIBCAC
assurance
audit.
assessment. Yep.
Absolutely. And the CMMC final rule says we still, as the DoD, reserve the right to show up and run an audit with our own people, even if you have a C3PAO assessment. So that's who DIBCAC is. John Ellis, the former DIBCAC director, was a big voice through the early years of the CMMC saga. Now Jen Henderson is running DIBCAC. She's awesome. And they're the ones, Nick Del Rosso has been on the Cyber AB Town Hall. So he's over there running stuff as well. He's been presented at CS2. And so these are the DoD's employees who are cyber auditors. Part of the reason why, or pretty much the main reason why, the DoD opted for a third-party audit system that is run by commercial companies as C3PAOs is because they cannot hire enough full-time employees inside DIBCAC to run the number of assessments that they want for everybody who would need a CMMC level 2 assessment, especially nowadays after the doging and the cutting and the this and the that, right? It's only more in line with what the government wants to do compared to 2019 or 2020. But that's what DIBCAC is. They can always show up to darken your door, as John Ellis used to say, to ask you about cybersecurity stuff. They are also the ones that run the C3PAO certification assessments. So the C3PAOs, if a company wants to be an assessment organization, they have to go through a CMMC assessment that's conducted by DIBCAC. DIBCAC will be the people who run CMMC level 3 assessments. So if you think or know or want a level 3 assessment in the future, once you have your CMMC level 2 assessment, you'll have to reach out to DIBCAC and coordinate a level 3 assessment. The last detail back in the day, companies could get a joint surveillance assessment as a preliminary CMMC level 2 that at the time would be grandfathered into a CMMC level 2 assessment. The joint part of that was DIBCAC auditors sitting side saddle with C3PAO assessors running the assessment. That's sort of how they were able to get that early batch of assessments going together. Technically, DIBCAC is auditors. C3PAOs are assessors. A CMMC assessment is not an audit. DIBCAC is an audit. They are straight up auditors. So there you go.
DIBCAC also did come out with, it's a couple of years old now, the other than satisfied requirements, the top 10 most missed controls on assessments.
Yes.
It's worth just taking a peek if you're just curious to make sure that you have your bases covered. FIPS validated cryptography is top of the list. MFA. Number 3, identify, report, and correct system flaws. And there are 10 of these things. Definitely recommend taking a peek. It's actually on the DCMA DIBCAC homepage. So if you're curious on that, feel free to download that PDF or that PowerPoint.
I know y'all are
take a
busy,
look.
DIBCAC. If y'all are watching, I know sometimes we see you guys checking stuff out. We love the work. Big fans.
We do.
Please update the top 10 findings.
Yeah.
There's no way that it's the same. They might be very similar.
I'm going to be honest. I think they could be very much the same.
Or update it and be like, you'll never guess what happened, everybody. The
Nothing.
top 10 has not changed whatsoever. Give me Jen Henderson if you're listening.
Yes.
Everyone tag her. Everyone tag her in the chat right now. She's on LinkedIn every once in a while. Give me a power rankings every quarter.
Yes.
Like the number 10 is off the list and number 1 fell to number 5.
We can do like a TRL MTV countdown, music video, like.
Oh man. Give me something. But yeah, I think it would be fascinating if the list has changed. To your point, it might be more fascinating if the list hasn't changed at all. So yeah, please, that would be wonderful to see. Let's see here.
Dustin, interesting question.
Oh yeah, has anyone seen the NAVFAC letters stating 7021? So this is DFARS clause 252, 204, 7021. That is the clause that will specify CMMC levels in contracts. Has anyone seen the NAVFAC letter stating 7021 will be in their RFPs on or after October 1st, 2025? I haven't seen the NAVFAC letter. We did see the SAM.gov announcement from the Army Corps of Engineers that said that October 1 was the big day. So two things. One, send us a copy of the letter if you have it.
Yeah, we would love to see it.
We'll shout you out on the podcast and the stream. We'd love to do a video
or not, if you'd rather remain anonymous.
Or not, we can make up a name, redact a name. But yeah, if you have a copy, please send it to us. Here's the thing about October 1st. We've talked about this in the past. When CMMC 1.0 came out in 2020, they were going to have a 5-year phased rollout.
Yep.
And the end of that phased rollout was October 1st, 2025. And so in that phased rollout period, basically the DoD was going to hand pick on a case-by-case basis which contracts were going to get which level of certification requirement. And then October 1st, 2025, it's in all contracts and solicitations. That is still the language of DFARS 7021 on the books in 48 CFR right now, because that's the text that got codified with the final rule in 2020. Now, the guidance from the DoD to the contract workforce since then has been, do not use this clause. Everything is suspended until we get done with rulemaking. So the proposed rule that came out in August of last year is giving you, in essence, the text of the 48 CFR DFARS 7021 language that will be updated from its current version to the new version. So when that final rule comes out and then goes into effect, the text of DFARS 7021 and everything that's on the books right now will change. That could happen after, that will likely happen after October 1st. So it is very unlikely that October 1st, at this point, based off of the way the timeline is working, we did a podcast on this, it is very unlikely that October 1st will be that day. There is a small chance that it could be that day, at which point everyone I know is going to come on this chat and they're going to say, told you so, it's going to be October 1st. So take it with a grain of salt. It probably won't be October 1st. However, the bigger picture is this is what it's going to be like. NAVFAC is going to publish a letter. The Army Corps of Engineers is going to publish a notice. Air Force, AFRL is going to publish a notice. MDA is going to have a slide on their webpage, and they're going to go, as of this day, this is the plan moving forward, and then it's bonanza time. So it might be October 1st. I don't think it will be, but this is a good example of what it's going to look like in a few short weeks, most likely, a couple months away, when it does go live.
So I got a LinkedIn message yesterday from an anonymous source saying they just saw DFARS 7021 requirements from the Army, and it sounded like an actual contractual obligation, a contractual clause with that language in it already. My assumption is it might have also been an RFP versus an actual contract for solicitation, but it's already happening. And this was a fairly large organization. And they were like, hey, we just saw this like this week pop up. So it's going to happen in the dark of night, if you will. It's just going to be on a bulletin board on sam.gov, and they're going to be like, hey, wish you the best.
There you go.
It's going to be in your solicitation. Because, I mean, we saw it first pop up as a heads up in the MAPS contract in December, which was the day after CMMC was finalized for 32 CFR. So very interesting. Keep asking your primes when they expect you to be certified, and maybe ask some contracting officers if you have contract option years coming up, because those could also be impacted in a post-CMMC world.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael said, with all the classic equipment in the lab, I feel like we're watching Jacob and Daniel's innies from Severance, which makes me wonder what their Audis would be like. My Audi coaches a kid's soccer team and has crocheted many creative hats for them to have lovely. In the winter time.
Yeah. Very nice.
I'm sure my Audi's amazing. All righty, let's see here. Okay, some stuff from the queue. What questions do you ask to get a sense of assessment scope?
Size of the organization, size of the enclave, how many physical sites, how many assets are in scope, whether that's CUI, specialized, CRMA, et cetera, SPAs. Those are the main ones. Usually it's size of org, and then size of actual accessible environment, and then number of assets as part of your scope. Those are the three major big ones we're seeing out there. And that's how people are typically calculating the cost of how much your assessment will be.
Gotcha.
Based on the complexity. So,
all righty. Brian says, how long does the CMMC provisional instructor last? How long will CMMC provisional assessors be able to perform CMMC level 2 assessments? How long do DIBCAC CMMC level 2 certs last? How long does the provisional instructor last? I'd have to double check on what the latest AB Town Hall said. That's a great question for the AB Town Hall at the end of the month. I guess provisional. I am a provisional instructor. I was a provisional instructor.
I thought those were already phased.
I thought provisional instructor is still a thing because they don't have a certified instructor set up yet. I haven't taught class in a while. I would ask that on the AB Town Hall unless anybody knows in chat. I think provisional instructor is still active. Don't worry about it, everybody. Still a provisional instructor, apparently. But I would ask the AB, how long will CMMC provisional assessors be able to perform level 2 assessments? Also something I would double check because I'm not sure if provisional assessor status is still valid. I think provisional assessor status is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all provisional assessor status expired, and the provisional, because they were going to take the crossover bridge training, and they were going to, they had to, I'm pretty sure all of that has been taken care of, but double check on the AB Town Hall. How long did JSP CMMC level 2
Is that JSVA probably?
Is that JSVA? Did you mean JSVA, Brian? The Joint Surveillance Program. DIB Joint Surveillance Program CMMC level 2 cert assessments last. If you had a Joint Surveillance level 2 assessment that met the proper criteria by the proper date, so prior to the effective date of
December 14th of 2025 or 2024,
2024, yeah. So if you met the criteria and you had your assessment done, whatever that criteria was before that date in December of last year, then your joint surveillance assessment was in the queue to get transferred over, which I believe most of them have at this point, but I don't know if they've actually published that number. If you haven't heard back yet, I would reach out to your DIBCAC folks and ask them what was going on. But
it's also based on the original date of your assessment.
Correct.
So I know a company that did joint surveillance, perfect score, got the cert once 32 CFR was finalized. They have the 3 years for them is up in May of next year already.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy to think about? They were like one of the first 3 companies to go through a JSVA.
Yeah.
It's just very fascinating.
It happens really, really quick here.
We have a couple that were posted due to time for reposts. I think we have Bruce.
Oh yeah, here's Bruce
and Jody.
Mr. Landis is back with good questions. Let's see, GCC High, AVD Enclave, and SC Level 2 3.13.7 split tunneling. Are OSC's computers out of scope, or must split tunneling be disabled on their VPN connection, both on-premise and remote workers?
So I'm going to post something in chat because I like being friendly. off our good friend DefCert's website. They did a collab with Microsoft on this. So most VDI environments, the connection is over HTTPS, which is TLS 1.2, which is FIPS validated in the cryptography mechanism for encryption. Microsoft and DefCert wrote a position paper on why HTTPS and using that protocol to the virtual desktop of Microsoft Cloud is not considered split tunneling. I would highly recommend using that. And from a stance of all the assessments we've seen people go under, no one has challenged that logic at all. Now, if you are using a traditional VPN, you're going to have to go full tunnel. There is not really a huge logic around split tunneling there when it comes to that. But over HTTPS, there seems to be a consensus that that is sufficient when accessing Azure Virtual Desktop. Yeah.
There you go.
I hope that was helpful.
All right. Jody says, suggestion for those of us that have received our level 2 C3PAO cert in SPRS.
Hey, by the way, humble brag.
There you go.
Congrats a little bit, Jody. That's incredible.
Amazing job. Okay, so we have our level 2 C3PAO cert in SPRS. All right. How do we report this to the contract officer representative since they don't have the CMMC section in SPRS? Do we also submit a self-assessment score?
Yes.
You just talked to the A-line guys about this.
Yep. So you'll submit your perfect score. So you still have to annually attest to that. The C3POs are going to submit the package and your certificate to EMAS. That's what the contracting officer's system, that's what they're going to look at to validate you're certified or not. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have access to EMAS. There's no way for you to get access to it. The C3PO will have to upload that. The contracting officer will then look in EMAS to validate your certification. If it's self-attestment, they will look at SPRS for your self-attestment.
Gotcha. All righty. Let's see here. What does the assessment waiting period look like for users if we're all set up with an enclave / solution? So they start working with us. They get all set up. Yep. Everybody's nice and tidy. They're good to go. They're compliant. Everything's nice, but then they're waiting for their assessment. Is that a problem? So
usually there's kind of two thoughts here. One, what's just the general backlog for C3PAOs? Sometimes it's a few weeks for larger C3PAOs like Align. Sometimes it's multiple months, like we talked to Fernando, and he was booked out multiple months ahead, right? So the backlog to get started is usually agnostic of the scope of what your actual assessment is. That's just the backlog of labor that they have. But once you get your assessment underway, an enclave is typically a lot shorter. I mean, I know assessments that have lasted only like 8 hours, like just a day, because the boundary was so tight, the documentation was so well put together. The first phase of the CMMC assessment went very well with all the collection of the documents, but most of them take no more than 3 to 5 days on the long term for your actual assessment. I don't actually know any that have taken over a week.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, John had a good point in here regarding letting the contracting officer know CMMC EMAS up and running.
All right.
So they're gonna be able to see that in there. So you shouldn't have to manually let them know. But good on you for checking, because you can reach out to them and say, hey, did you get a notification that we got it? Can you see this? Are we good to go? So you guys are way ahead of the curve. And not only do you have it, you're making sure that they can see it. So
what good is it if we can't, if we can't scuba, what we've been here for?
If you have the cert and then they can't see it, you got a problem,
right?
So yeah, that's definitely good to check. All righty. Somebody messaged me the other day and they were saying, where the heck do I find the 48 CFR final rule? Well, currently you can't find the 48 CFR final rule. So
that's a bummer, by the way.
Can't find it yet. You'll be able to find it soon. So here's what happens. During rulemaking, proposed and final rules are published in the Federal Register, but the actual regulation that goes into effect is online in the Code of Federal Regulations, the ECFR. So if you want to read the proposed rule, you would find it in the Federal Register. If you want to read the final rule, where it's got their analysis, their comment responses, all the stuff, and the text of the regulation, you would find it in the Federal Register. If you just want the text of the regulation, just the what, not the why and the blah, 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 then you have to find that in the ECFR. However, since the 48 CFR final rule hasn't been published yet and it hasn't gone into effect, if you go to the ECFR and you look up 7021, you'll find the old text from the 2020 final rule. So if you want to read the proposed rule for 48 CFR, the easiest way to do it is to Google CMMC Federal Register August 2024. And the first one that will come up, it just says proposed rule. And it's proposed rule, and it's all the text of the stuff that was published last summer. That's what they're proposing will change 7021, the provision, the text of the instructions to the contracting officers, all that stuff. After the final rule comes out and it updates the Code of Federal Regulations, you'll just be able to type DFARS 7021, and it'll take you to the most current text. So you can't find the final rule right now. You will be able to find the final rule in the Federal Register, and then you'll be able to find the actual updated regulation. That's how the rulemaking system works.
So although 48 CFR has been submitted to OIRA, happened what, a few weeks ago?
July 22nd.
Okay, man, locked in. I like that. We don't know what has been changed.
Right.
We just don't. We don't know what the DoD went back and modified due to public comment period. We don't know any of that stuff. I can tell you right now, I doubt much changed after looking at the initial comments. Certifications, rollout, phase rollout, a lot of that's even codified in 32 CFR. So I wouldn't expect too much change there, but
yeah,
we don't know until
it's going to reference a lot of 32 CFR for that. Hey, our friend Levi's here.
Hey, Levi.
Love seeing Levi. He said, "Hey, when are you growing the beard back out?" Probably not for a while because we're going back to jiu-jitsu, and it gets tugged on in the jiu-jitsu classes. So probably not growing it back out for a while, but you never know. You never know what the future happens.
Banana gang.
When will we see Katie's response to the SecDef memo?
This was asked last week on the live stream as well, and I told them I have no idea, and we might not even actually be able to see the publication that she writes.
My assumption is we won't, because it's been 2 weeks since the SecDef memo. This was the SecDef memo that came out and listed CMMC as a primary part of their strategy to prevent foreign influence on the supply chain and weapon systems and things like that. I don't think there's a requirement for that response to the SecDef to be public, so I don't know if we will ever see it.
No.
If we do, we'll certainly do a podcast about it and let you know. But I don't think that that's a requirement for it to be made public at all. All righty, let's see here. Regarding the CMMC phased rollout, will there be a small business rollout? No. No, there will not. If you look at the responses and rationale in the 32 CFR final rule that came out last year, went into effect in December, the phased rollout is the thing that they're using to taper the requirements for small businesses, is that they are not coming out with the requirement and saying, boom, everybody do it right now. Not only are they trying to do that for the assessment capacity in the ecosystem to be able to ramp up, but they're also saying, we're giving companies time to implement their requirements, which, the entire reason why we're doing this is because people haven't implemented the requirements, and they're still saying, we're going to give people more time to implement the requirements. Wink, wink. We know you guys haven't implemented the requirements.
But also, you should have, So
there won't be a rollout based off of small business size. They even say in that rule that doing a rollout based on size or amount of data or any given thing other than just the top level contract could cause unfair advantages and disadvantages, competition issues. And so they're not going to do it outside of just these contracts are going to have stuff over phases. They're not going to have any carve outs or anything like that. Let's see. What kind of time commitments are there for existing IT staff when they're working with us on Summit 7 project solutions, things like that?
So when you're in the project phase, you're probably looking somewhere around the 4, 6, maybe 8 hours a week. If you're doing a migration with us, obviously there's a lot leading up to, and then the week of the actual migration cutover. So that's going to be a pretty packed week. If you're in our managed services and you're an IT POC for escalation, you're probably looking at maybe 30 minutes, tops an hour or something like that. And that's mostly just change approvals, onboarding and offboarding of user notifications. If there is an event or a potential incident, obviously escalation and investigation there when we send that over. things like that. So pretty minimal on the run and maintain side. The project side, again, 4 to maybe 8 hours, and then a big surge of time come the actual migration cutover if you're migrating data. And then on the compliance side, I would budget somewhere around 20 to 20-ish hours a week for about 4 to 8 weeks, because it's just a lot of documentation to get through, a lot of approvals to get through. It just takes some time.
Yeah. And we don't only work with companies that have 0 IT staff.
Right.
I mean, we augment IT staff pretty often, probably more often than not.
Yeah, very much so.
So there you go. All right, everybody,
environments.
We're already at the end of an hour. Thanks for stopping by the Q&A. We do this every Friday. Sometimes we do it in the lab. Sometimes we do it in the studio. Sometimes we do it remotely, but we're here every Friday. You can find the podcast every Thursday.
Yep.
Daniel's got a podcast that comes out pretty much every week now.
Yeah.
There's always new stuff coming out on the channel. So, like and subscribe, do the thing. August 26th, the reason we have this amazing set up is we're going to be in the lab doing our free half-day event. So be sure to check that out. It's free. So if you register, it doesn't cost money because it's free. I've been asked to repeat that multiple times.
It's free.
Producer Chriselle in the back is saying, remember to tell people that it's free. So check that out. Check out our blog. Follow us on LinkedIn. If we didn't get to your question, we will add it to the queue. If you find this afterwards, feel free to submit a comment question and we'll add it to the list. You can always go to CUIHotline.org, call the number and leave a question. You can fill out the form and leave a question. You can. It's free. I promise it's free. Please, Chriselle's going to be so mad at me if I don't say it's free. It is free. So check it out August 26th. Let's see. We'll be at Gold Coast next week.
Yep.
I'll be back in a month in Huntsville for National Cyber Summit, Summit 7 Live in September. We'll be at Summit 7 Live in Dallas in mid-September. We're traveling all over the place. You can check out where we're going to be on our website, and I'm always posting about it. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Can we do a real high five on stream?
Oh, yeah, baby.
Real
All
high
right.
five.